This is a Hot Pie Media original.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp, that's H-E-L-P, is professional therapy done securely online. I've gotten therapy. There's no shame in that ever. So if you feel like you need to take next steps, then stick around for a discount code at the end. BetterHelp will assess your needs, match you with your own licensed professional therapist, and since they are committed to facilitating solid therapeutic matches, they make it easy and free to change therapist if needed. You can start communicating in under 48 hours, schedule weekly video or phone sessions, and log into your account anytime and send a message to your therapist. It's available worldwide and more affordable than traditional therapy. And guess what else? Financial aid is available too. I think that's a huge statement about BetterHelp because, man, therapy is not easy. I know the year that I was going through my divorce, we wanted to go through divorce care counseling the whole time. And man, we spent like $60,000, money that honestly we didn't have, but we were trying to help each other, help ourselves, and having someone that will come in and support and make it affordable for all. You know, I think that's very important, speaks highly of BetterHelp. BetterHelp really wants you to start living a happier life today. Visit their website at BetterHelp. That's HELP.com. Read some reviews and take the next step to take charge of your mental health because you are an overcomer. Special offer for Overcome with Justin Wren listeners. Get 10% off your first month BetterHelp.com/overcome. Again, that's BetterHelp.com/overcome. Welcome to Overcome with Justin Wren. Wow, do we have an incredible podcast for you today. It was an incredible conversation with my good friend Anthony Esperance, and he is in the band Papa Roach. I'm sure you've heard the song Last Resort, or if you haven't heard their music, please go check out some of it soon. What's one of their new songs? I forgot what he said. The Time.
Well, he said his favorite was Falling Apart.
Falling Apart is one of his.
But they've got
Kill
a new
the
album
Noise
coming out.
is a
Kill
new
the Noise
album coming
is their
out.
tour and the new album that's coming out.
Yeah. And he is an incredible songwriter, but his story is pretty powerful. I might have waited a little bit to get to it, but his brother was actually one of the founding members of Papa Roach, his half brother. And then, he's awesome, Tobin. And it was crazy how he found out about, he knew his brother, but hadn't really had a relationship with him. And then all of a sudden he was 10 years old and he was, Last Resort was put into the CD player with his father. And all of a sudden the next week he saw him on Jay Leno. The next week, David Letterman. The next week, I guess TRL with Carson Daly, Total Request Live, if you remember that. And Anthony's story is powerful. I met him at treatment. I met him at the drug facility or the substance use disorder facility, treatment facility. And it was absolutely awesome getting to know him. He instantly became one of my best friends there. And he's honestly becoming one of my better friends that I've had throughout my life. You'll hear his story. You'll be inspired by the musician that he is and the creative side of his life and how he blesses the world with all of that. But you also see his struggle and him having to overcome his alcoholism. I think I'll have him on for another show because we didn't cover his whole story, but we did get what we could, and it was powerful.
And plus, it'll be interesting to have him back on when you guys are deeper in your recovery.
Yeah.
And just to see how that progresses, since you're both really like on the same timeline, kind of. So. Yeah,
I actually got into treatment a day or two before him. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up staying an extra week or two, or 2 weeks. And so it's been cool that I got in there before he did. He left before I did. So he kind of had the real world adjustment before I did. We're able to catch up and keep each other kind of accountable and also encouraged. I'd say mostly encouraged. And, but a big part of being encouraged is keeping each other accountable, making sure we're doing the right thing. So he's into his like 43rd or 44th day sober.
So, yeah.
And I'm into my 54th. Mm-hmm. And so it's pretty awesome that we're
I didn't realize you were
together.
keeping count so close.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have like a little tracker or you just know every day?
I was asked a few days ago.
Oh, like so you just calculated it?
Yeah. 50 was kind of a big one. And then so about to be 2 months. And
do they do a chip for 100 days or something?
90 days.
90.
Yep. So a month, 2 months, 3 months. Alex should do it for every month for the first 12.
Cool.
And then they do it year by year after that. They'll do
Cool.
18 months also. And you got to go to an AA meeting with me last night, Amy.
I did.
Yeah. Or a meeting last night.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was not my first one. So.
Right. But it was powerful. And so I think that him and I are going to be hitting some meetings together, going to some groups. And yeah, anyways, I'm really grateful for who Anthony is. He's going to have his solo career coming out also at the same time he's playing with Papa Roach. And he is a guy that's, 10 years younger than his brother. That was the senior or founding member, Tobin.
Tobin Esperance.
But it's going to be cool to watch him do both. Play for Papa Roach. We'll go to one of the concerts. Then also being able to see a solo career.
And you know what? Like you, who knows what he's capable of sober? You know, like he's really experienced his whole music career mostly not sober. And so, you're this, you have a lot of sober time too, but you are excited to see what heights you can reach when you're sober, fully sober, and really more than the sobriety, healed, you know? So.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And don't say what heights you can reach with your hands waving funny, because that was one of the most impactful. I thought
don't
you were,
do that.
I thought you were saying it in a joking way, or not joking way, but an exaggerating way. I thought that was one of the most powerful cards you wrote to me, because I do want to know a life where I'm 10 years sober, 20 years sober, 30 years sober. And it's going to be encouraging to watch his journey. And thank you for
planning to live
me.
to 120, honey. So you could be
70 years sober.
More than that, you could be like
60, maybe. I don't know.
90, 85 years sober.
Yeah, there we go. 120 is the new 80. It's proven. My friend David Sinclair. Anyways, I'm so grateful for everyone that's listening. Please like, rate, review, subscribe to the show. That means the world to us. Please let us know some comments on social media, my social media, Amy's social media, Anthony's social media. And remember that Overcome podcast at gmail.com. You can send us your own Overcome story.
Please do. We're going to be wrapping these up. We're getting things back in order now. And so we'll be wrapping these up with people's Overcome stories. So we definitely want to be able to share those. I'm excited about that. Overcome podcast at Gmail.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, On It, for sponsoring the show. We're going.
Love it.
I love you, brother.
I love you.
Anthony, you are the fucking man. Bro.
Coming from you?
For you. Yeah.
Coming from you.
Tell us who you are. Tell the listeners.
My name is Anthony.
From Papa Roach.
From Papa Roach, yes. Yeah. I played
Anthony Esperance.
Esperance, yes.
Esperance.
I play with Papa Roach. I've been with them I've been working for him for about 10 years. But as far as playing and being in the band, about 4. And it's been an incredible journey, a wild ride. And that ride obviously came to a little halt with the pandemic. Right. So I decided to move myself to Austin and just be closer to some family and some other opportunities.
Some of your family would be your brother Tobin, who's also a founding member in the band.
A badass human being.
Yeah. And he lives here in Austin.
Yes.
You guys just celebrated little Arrow's birthday the day after Christmas.
My niece.
Your niece.
Shout out to Arrow, man. I love you.
Yeah.
Yeah. He lives here in Austin, and just, he was just gloating about the way of life and the people. And the cool thing that I've noticed of being here is, I've been a city boy for the last 10 years. I've been in Portland or Los Angeles.
Right.
And coming here and just meeting people that have ranches and like land and space and no noise. I'm in love.
You're in love.
I'm in love with being here.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Austin's got that effect on basically everybody right now.
That's what I'm hearing.
But yeah, man, I'm stoked you're here. Random side fact. Arrow's little friend is who?
Bo. My niece has a friend named Bo.
And when they're together, it's a little bow and arrow.
A little bow and arrow are hanging, dude.
That is badass.
Yeah.
Wow.
Beautiful.
That is beautiful. Yeah. I'm really proud to have you on the show. We had a unique way that you and I came together.
Very.
People might think this show Overcome has now turned completely into like recovery or addiction.
I was thinking
because
that.
my show and then the shows that Amy and I did before, but I guess our recovery journey brought us together.
It did.
I remember I was listening and heard you sharing some of your story with some of the guys. and you shared that y'all had a new song coming out with Papa Roach and that it was with the UFC.
Yeah.
Is it Stand Up?
Stand Up is the name.
Stand Up is the name.
Yes.
And so that's awesome, man.
Yeah. So UFC picked it up. You know, it's in all the promo videos. If you see a fight coming up, you'll hear it spinning. I think it's still spinning. This was a few months ago. But what an honor, man, especially because we're all huge UFC fans. I mean, we watch every Saturday night. We're going in on it. And so for them to contact us and say, can we pick up Stand Up? It was like elated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How does that work? How does they just hear the song, or does someone pitch them the song, or how?
In this case, we have a connect there. My brother Tobin it's a friend of his that works there. I think he's in the head of rock division and with ESPN.
With ESPN. Okay.
With ESPN. And so, you know, they keep in touch, and I think it's probably, I'm not even sure how the song got into his hands, but maybe through managers or the label threw it their way. And he said, this is amazing. It's got the right energy. It's the right message. Stand up, get up when you're knocked down was kind of the perfect premise, you know? And so it fell in his hands, and they're using it. So I'm stoked.
Yeah. Who wrote that song?
It was myself, the band, and then a very talented friend and producer of ours named Jason Evigan.
Okay.
Jason is insanely talented. He's been friends with the band from way back, and he wrote that song with us. He was a big part of it.
Wow.
And,
that's awesome, man.
Honored to be working with him.
Yeah. And then you're I don't know, jack of all trades. What do you say about that with musicians? Like, you can just play it all.
Yeah. Well, dude, okay. I'm very fortunate. There has been a home studio in every house I have lived in since I was a baby. My dad is a musician. My mom is a musician. Multiple of my aunts and uncles are musicians. And so my dad will build in our garage a full-on recording studio with sound treatment, the best gear, everything. And so I grew up with that in front of my face.
Yeah.
And, you know, the funny thing is like, I probably could have picked up instruments earlier in life, but like, there's this story, I think I told it at the ranch, where my mom, she got me a kid's toy acoustic guitar when I was 3, and she gave it to me. And I was like, okay. And I go out to the back deck and I piss in the acoustic guitar hole.
I don't remember this story.
I pissed in the acoustic guitar hole, brought it back to my mom with the shit sloshing around. And I said, here. And she was like, okay, he obviously is not interested in music. And thinking back to that story, I'm like, that's pretty punk rock.
Yeah, it's pretty punk rock. Amy, do you have a thing on that? I mean, Amy's a musician.
I have no story like that.
No story.
Do
you have any comments on this?
Well, I'm glad to see things turned around.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just thought maybe at the time I was more into Stretch Armstrong or whatever, but I think now, like, what if I would have started playing at 3, dude?
Yeah.
Probably would have been a virtuoso, but.
Yeah. But when did you officially, you consider it, not that you just started to play, but you took it serious?
Oh, dude, it was like a movie moment. So I'll start with my first instrument was drums.
Yeah. and just to set it up for Papa Roach right now, you play percussion, guitar, and keyboard.
Percussion, guitar, keyboard, and some backing vocals on stage.
Right.
So essentially what they did is I've been writing with them for the last 10 years, and I was writing extra guitar parts, harmonies, background vocals, whatever. So eventually they just said, hey, come join the band and play those things live so that we don't have to rely on backing tracks. A lot of bands and acts use backing tracks, which it's fine, no knock.
Right.
But Papa Roach, you know, they base their shit off being organic and raw live. And so they said, you come play all that. So that's why I have 4 things going on stage. Yeah.
You know? Wow. That's a lot though. And then for me, I mean, one of the first real concerts, I mean, I've been to a couple of concerts. We have a friend named Satsung. I'll introduce you to Drew McManus.
You told me about Satsung.
Yeah. Dude, he's a badass. Yeah. And his music has inspired me so deeply. And I've been to his concerts and a few others, but I didn't grow up doing that. I couldn't remember names of songs, names of musicians, although I always used music whenever I was like training or wrestling, like to get me pumped up. But Amy took me to ACL. And that was incredible.
You've never been to anything like that.
Never.
Oh, I bet your mind was blown.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, you're like,
so
what
blown.
is this?
What is this culture?
Who was Madhu? Was that her name? The woman that had the wonderful
Erykah
dresses.
Badu?
Erykah Badu.
Oh, dude. Erykah Badu.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, she was
Who's
incredible.
That guy, Prince?
Sorry. But it blew me away.
Yeah.
Her voice, her act, her music, the stage, the lights, like I was just mesmerized.
I love that about you, man. You're a lover of things. You're a lover of new experiences. I can just see you for the first time with that big smile, like, this chick rips.
Yeah, she was incredible.
It was very fun to take him to ACL for the first time.
Good on you, Amy. Good on you.
I was like,
awesome.
we're going at least for a day just so you can experience it.
Yeah, and we did, and it was incredible. And then I'm getting to another point, but then the one band that was almost like Led Zeppelin, like a modern Led Zeppelin.
Those kids. They're young.
Kids. Why
They're
can't
real young.
Greta Van Fleet.
Very good.
Deb O'Keefe.
Thank you, Deb.
On the
Young guys. When they came out, they were like 17 or 18, I think.
Wow.
When they started.
Their style was so dope too. What they're wearing, it felt like a blast from the past. Every screen was black and white. So they weren't playing in color, and it almost took you back in time.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most epic like live experiences I've ever had. And I love live fights. Like I think on sports, I enjoy basketball. Football's all right. I'd rather be on the field. Baseball, I can fall asleep in the stands. And I mean, I appreciate all athletics. But I've been to the World Series, the NBA Finals, the big fights, the Super Bowl. And I love that experience. But man, that was like one of those moments. Being at the Super Bowl with these guys up on stage because everybody, I think it was attracting everyone that didn't even know who they were. I didn't know who they were. People were like, who are these guys? It they ripped. It was awesome.
The beautiful thing about concerts, man, is you're all one.
Yes.
You are all one.
Yes.
You're not thinking about taxes. You're not thinking about your worries. You're like mosh pitting and like making love with other humans to music.
Yeah.
And no one's in a bad mood. That's what I love about concerts and music in general.
I love that. I had another point, and we'll get back to We're All One because we talked about that at the ranch. And when we say ranch, we're talking about, we won't use the name of the facility, but we were at a treatment center together. That's where we came together for substance use disorder. My drugs of choice a lot of times are Oxycontin, weed, and then basically any other mind-altering thing on the planet Earth. And your drug of choice or no choice? Alcohol. Okay.
Devil's juice, man.
And we'll get into that story. The thing I want to point out about ACL, though, you said that you're playing the back tracks and you guys are just organic. There was a couple of musicians we went to that I was actually a little bummed about. I won't say their names. But
like you remember their names.
It's true. I don't know their name, but there was a rapper, and I have seen some live rap that's incredible. But this one guy just went up there, and he was just lip syncing his own songs, and he was playing other people's songs. Do you remember this? And like people were walking away.
Well, it takes away some of the energy. I mean, sometimes even just having a live drummer up there makes such a difference. You know,
it was just him on stage, nobody else, no one playing any music. He just had a microphone. It was him. And he was saying some of the words and not saying other of the words. Yeah. And it was like, is this guy even performing or is he calling it in? Like, does he even want to be here?
That's hard to try and perform solo with no band backing you up, or because that's energy right there, right?
Yeah.
Like Amy just said, if you have a drummer and you see him wailing, like you're going to feel it, or a bass player up there doing his thing. So props to that guy for trying, but if he's not even singing the words.
No, he wasn't. He was literally putting the mic down at times, and he wasn't like even encouraging people to sing the words for him. He was just he had a bad day. Yeah. And I didn't mean it that like to call that dude out. No. I don't even remember his name. There we go. But it was just so different. Like you could go from one stage to another, and you could feel this person just giving it their all and everyone coming together. And then another guy that was kind of not, and you have days off. And I know that with fighters and stuff, or guys that come to the fight and they're only collecting a paycheck. They're not there to win the fight. They're there just to get paid. And so they'll take a fall, or they're just, they're not performing real well because they're just there for a paycheck. It's not the end of their career type thing. Guys that were at maybe in the later stage of their life was Duran Duran, and they freaking rocked it. They killed it.
Yep. I can see that.
I can't wait to come to my first Papa Roach concert.
Well, me too. On that note, that is one of the things I respect about Papa Roach so much, dude, is like they're known for being a hard rocking live band. They're known for their live show. Our singer is a madman in the best way possible, dude. Like he's constantly jumping down into the crowd. If we ever play like stadiums or arenas, he's in the seats with the people and the spotlights following.
He's stressing that security out.
Oh, they're following him. He's like, I got this,
Yeah.
And so when I was asked to join, dude, you bet I was nervous. I'm like, I got to bring it. And to this band, that's just,
I got to measure up to this.
I have to measure up to these beasts. So I remember that part being a little daunting because my focus is those 4 instruments that I was talking about, right? I can't really rock out as hard as they can. So I'm kind of a little more focused, and I've found my place now where I sit in the band. But you go watch us live, dude, those guys go off, and it's a pretty cool sight to see.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow. Well, I want to get to your story because, I mean, you've played in front of 190,000 people or something like that, 180, something like that. Wild there. In Germany.
Yeah.
I mean, that's next level. I fought in front of, I don't know, 30, 40,000 people and millions on TV, but I mean, that's epic.
That one was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A sea of people.
Yeah.
Didn't you say it was as far as you could see?
So yeah, the thing I always say, because people ask me about that, it was called Summer Breeze Fest in Germany. I don't remember which city. But it's so many people that at a certain point, you're just seeing a horizon, kind of like if it's the ocean, you can't see beyond the horizon.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at a lot of people, maybe 50,000, 60,000, whatever I can see. And I feel this intense energy more than any other concert. It was insane, man. And then someone did a drone footage, right? So I think it might've been that night or the next day, I saw the drone footage of the sea of people moving together, like I was saying, as one.
Wow.
And the cool thing about Europe, man, is like most of them, their phones are down. In the States, you see a lot of people holding up their phone. And, you know, all good. I know that people want to.
But you're not necessarily present.
You're not present.
They're like remembering it, or I don't know what you're doing. I saw this meme of this like older woman that like someone famous was walking by and she, you know, had her hands like down and was like so excited just seeing that person that was walking by, but all the kids just had their phones out. It was like, they're not being present. They're not even going to
100%,
you know, just be there now.
100%, man. Like do what you want to do, all good. But if your phone's up and you're taking video, you're not moving, you're not really engaging. Right. In Germany, I didn't see a phone up, and the drone footage, everyone was mosh pitting. It was like the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I got to be on stage for it. Dude. Yeah. So that lit me up. That show was a game changer for me. And those moments I'm so grateful for.
What is it like before that moment, knowing it's going to be a big show, but then coming out and it's bigger than what you can expect? And then afterwards, what is that like? Like going backstage with the crew that you were playing with, the band?
Before is, you know, now that I've been doing it for me, I've been doing it with them for 4 years, is like, there's some butterflies. There's always a little bit of butterflies, but it's more like it's game time. It's time to go to work. I'm focused. Like my first show with them was in 2017. And all my friends asked me like, were you sweating bullets? Were you nervous? I was like, actually not really. Because like I said, I have to measure up to this band. So I was like, it's game time. I'm going to work. And so I'm thinking about my parts and my executions. And so before the show, a little bit of butterflies, but I'm ready to go. On stage, can't really explain it to you.
Yeah.
Can't really explain it because we rehearse so much and practice so much. It's autopilot, right? So for me, when I'm playing the percussion, I got to put the drumsticks back in the thing, bring my guitar back around to sing, right? Wow. And then I put the guitar behind me to start doing the keyboards. And it's all this like, I have these moves, so I'm not really thinking, and I can observe and watch the people.
Wow.
And I just can't explain the energy I'm feeling and that we're feeling on stage.
That's a master of his craft. That's muscle memory and
being prepared.
Yeah. Being prepared. What's that saying? If you prepare, if you fail to prepare, prepare to fail,
right?
Or something like that. Right.
Yeah.
And so you're prepped. I get it. Cause whenever I'm going into a fight and I know I've done everything that I was supposed to do in preparation for it, it's like, it's not even me versus him. It's just like, I just got to show up.
I like that.
I just got to show up.
You're in this cage with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember me saying that?
I remember you saying that.
Yeah. That's my feeling whenever, because people always ask you once, especially at the amateur ranks and then when the beginning of pros, are like, what was it like when you heard the cage door lock? And it's like, man, for me, I had a smile. That's like a little grin. Yeah. I was like, I'm not locked in here with this guy. This guy's locked in here with me.
Justin's going to work.
Yeah. This is work. This is time. This is what I put in all the work. Honestly, I don't know about for you. I like practice, but I don't love practice. I do it because I love to perform. Mm-hmm. And so there's some guys in fighting, at least, that their lifestyle is they just love the lifestyle of the training and the routine of it and everything else, which is great. But if I could just fight, I would just fight.
Got you.
And I'm sure you love it all, right?
Well, I was just going to say the big difference is like I'm playing a guitar to practice and you're getting smacked in the shin. and you're getting punched in the jaw.
Yeah.
So no wonder you maybe don't love practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's other guys that they love to train, but whenever it's time to fight, they get super nervous, or they start to crumble, or they might throw up beforehand, and some of those guys that get super nervous, it propels them forward to perform better.
Yeah.
Oftentimes not, but some do.
I could see that.
And
I could see that right when it's game time, you snap, or you just let something get in your head.
Yeah.
And you've already prepared this whole time. And then right at the last second, you just get thrown off.
Yeah. And there's some guys I knew a guy that would just own everybody, even world champions in the UFC, in the training room, but he could never get off the regional circuit, because anytime he took that step up, he was almost paralyzed with that fear or that insecurity or that doubt, self-doubt. But anyways, off that subject, I think that your story is super powerful, man. I literally have in front of me the notes that I took while you were writing your story, and I just wanted to get something from it. And then all of a sudden I was writing, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be on the show if you'd like to share it.
Yeah.
And so at 3, you peed in a guitar.
Hell yeah, brother. Punk rock.
Right. And then what was the journey like? I know at school was kind of hard. There was some bullying and things that happened.
Yep. Bullying was it was a big part of my life for a couple of the years. And I just think that I was first of all, we moved a lot. We moved schools a lot. So I didn't get to settle into one, with my teacher and my friends. I had to move, and new guy gets picked on, right? But I was always I was nice. I was easy to pick on. Bullying, at like 6, 7, 8 was more like, in the sandbox, they throw sand in your face, or they'll like give you a knuckle sandwich or whatever you want to call it. But it was traumatizing at that age, because I was trying to make friends. I was like, I want to make friends. And there was a good group of guys that didn't like me. But that was in California. And then the family decided to move to Oregon. And my mom is from a small coastal town in Oregon. It's called North Bend. Coos Bay is a more well-known city right next to it. So Coos Bay, Oregon. And the family moved up there, and it's a predominantly white city. I probably don't look it right now, but I was very brown as a kid. I'm Mexican, part Mexican. And I just remember that was the first thing people picked on me for, was my skin color, and would say some harsh words to me. And that escalated into, punching me in the gut in between classes, and just things that basically, like, I could have went to the principal and I could have went to my parents, but I had too much pride. I had this, like, if I go tell, I'm the bitch, I'm the tattletale. So I just took the punishment, and that went into high school. And I didn't even tell my friends, not even like my best guy friends.
Yeah.
I was embarrassed. I was like, I'll handle it. And it just did more damage than anything by, keeping it in and imploding later in life,
For sure. I can relate. I grew up getting very heavily bullied, and I also can relate to, I didn't tell my mom until it was like, okay, now I'm clinically diagnosed with depression and suicidal. Like I was holding it in and I was the only child. So I think I didn't want to let my mom or my dad down, that like people don't like me, or they pick on me, or what can I do about this? Like I would never ask for help, That's
an important thing to note from both of our stories, is that we both hid things from our parents. And I know a lot of kids out there suppress that because they don't want to burden their parents.
Yeah.
And it's like, for anyone watching and listening, just know that communicating is the way out of that.
Ooh.
No one's going to look down on you or go, what?
Yeah.
If you're suffering, I mean, your parents love you, your friends love you. And so if I could go back in time and tell myself at that age, hey man, go hit up one of your friends or talk to a teacher, I would go back and do that.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Man, that is so important. Like, it's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength when you ask for help. And one of the things Amy and I have been talking about a lot lately is, man, for me, this journey at treatment was really the way to get, you said we grew up hiding stuff from our parents, even being bullied, right?
Yep.
Was getting honest. And I got more honest with myself than I ever have. And one of the things Amy and I even talked about earlier was that it feels good to be honest, and honest with myself and honest with her. And so it's just, did you find that at treatment that was something you had to work on, was getting honest?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, it's a crazy thought to think that I haven't been 100% honest with myself my whole life, dude. You know, I was in denial about my alcoholism, and I think I was relying on denial to keep drinking. I knew something was going on. I knew I was drinking much heavier and much longer than I ever had, but I made a justification for it. My justifications were like, well, I still get up and go to the gym. I'm still paying all my bills. I'm still calling my mom every Friday, you know, and that's a justification for drinking a bottle a day. So I was not honest with myself until treatment, honestly, dude.
Yeah.
And being in there with you guys the first day, I'll tell the first day story first of all.
Yeah.
Have you heard the term, the Lost Boys, that I've given you guys? I dubbed you guys the Lost Boys the day I got in there.
Okay.
Because there was 21 of you.
Yeah.
Right. I had just come from detox in a van with a couple others. No one's in sight. It was a ghost town. Y'all were, I don't know where you guys were, but no one was in the house. Right. So this lady says, hey, put your stuff in this room. That'll be your bunk bed. And I'm scared. I'm like, no one's here. Okay. And I hear like a stampede of elephants, just footsteps, and like the Lost Boys came in, and I come out and y'all have mops, brooms. Some guy had a floor sander, like, and I'm like,
it was for the bathroom.
It was for the bathroom. Yeah. And y'all were going crazy on chores. I since learned it was chore time.
Yeah.
You also were about to go to lunch, and y'all were ravenously hungry for some reason on this day. So you were shouting and yelling at each other to mop faster. And I'm sitting there going, I'm Anthony. just got here. And I was like, these guys are the Lost Boys. They're running around. There's no parents around. And so I was intimidated, man. I was like, I got to learn all these guys' names. I've never been to treatment before. I'm just admitting to myself that I'm an alcoholic. It was a lot of emotions, but you were the first person that just kind of took me under your wing. I just remember you approached me and said, hey man, welcome, and anything you need, I can help you figure things out. And I said, thank you, man. And sure enough, I think the first class after lunch was called Process Group. And I asked you, what's Process Group? And you said, well, we all sit in a circle and get vulnerable and talk about our darkest secrets. And then the guys give you feedback. And I said, no. I said, no, I will not be doing that. I know I'm here for 3 weeks, but I will not be doing that.
Yeah.
And yet you were so kind. You kind of walked me into it, said, you don't have to talk if you don't want to. But that group is where I learned to be honest. You guys were being honest. So how could I not? I had a guard up, but when I saw you guys speak on your issues and I felt it, I saw electricity in the room, and I'm like, dude, you got to just let them have all your dark shit too.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So I learned it in those moments in that process group.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's really encouraging. I remember when I walked in there, and it was my second time to go, right? But I still felt like a little bit of a deer in the headlights, because, oh no, I'm back here again. And the first time was traumatic, and this time was like very hope-filled. So once I saw that the staff and the guys were being honest and were leaning in, and that the staff was there to truly help because they had so much purpose in helping, and that people had helped them. So they're just passing this along.
Right.
It's an opportunity to give back. And the guys were like leaning in. I was like, this is my place. This is my jam.
I could tell that for you. I mean, you told me of your experience at the last one. And I've heard from multiple, of the guys on their experiences at other recovery centers. And it was nothing like what we went to.
Yeah.
That's where I feel blessed, man, that I landed there.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different treatment centers, and I landed at this one where you're right. The staff cared so much about us, man. Like, I could feel that. And some of them were addicts and alcoholics themselves.
Right.
They only another addict or alcoholic can truly help you.
Yeah, that's true.
You can't just talk to your buddy from grade school about it. Like, you got to have someone that has been in the darkness that you've been in.
Yeah.
And I felt that there.
Yeah. It's because they've been in the trenches and they found a way out, and they can just relate, like a doctor, it says that in the big book and stuff like that. Like, even a doctor this is their trade, their vocation,
right? Can't
help like another person that has the same story,
100%,
that can truly relate, not just have sympathy, but empathy. Like, oh, I get it, I understand, and hey, this helped me. This doctor did help me, and this therapist did help me, and this treatment did help me, and this meeting did help me. But like, I know what you're going through,
100%,
and I'm just a little bit further along than you are.
It changes everything when you have a brother or sister in recovery that you can lean on daily.
Yeah.
I mean, people in recovery are amazing, dude. Everyone that I have on my phone from the ranch, picks up when I call at any hour because I've been calling my boys.
Yeah.
And they call me, and you've called me recently to do a 10-step, and things. And that's what I love about it. It's like that's that person that knows when their phone rings and it's you, like, okay, I got to be there for my homie.
Yep.
And not to take anything away from doctors, because you're right.
Sure.
Doctors, they can study these things and they can help with medications and whatever, but they don't know what it's like to be in the trenches.
Yeah.
It's game changer to have that.
I think it's good to remember that, like part of that, the people that don't know the steps, like there's a 12th step and it says we carry this message, and we're basically giving that strength. I mean, I'm slaughtering the actual step, but it's, carry the message to other alcoholics and giving them hope, strength, and experience. And they say when nothing else helps, like you tried the therapy or you tried this step or that step, and when nothing else helps, go help another addict and alcoholic. I think that's some of these people that are further along than you and me, that when we call and they pick up, or when we go in these rooms and we're able to meet these people and they're like truly, genuinely there to help. I think it's because they know that as they give that gift to us, it's literally taking out a little bit of insurance on their own recovery, right? And they're giving a gift to that person because they just want to give back what was given to them. So it's really cool. And I think we need it all, right? Like the therapy and other stuff. But man, it's been really cool to see how your story, which we're about to get back to, has impacted me in such a way that I think is going to impact others. So there was a kid, I remember I had a guy named Ken that would show me some dark stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so rewinding back to your story and your youth, we all of a sudden I'm like, I love this guy. Not this part, not this guy, but I was like, I can relate to you in such a different way now, just because you shared one little moment in your life.
Yeah. That
you had
moment.
Ben? Was it Ben?
It was Ben. Ben. Yeah. He's a kid that, I started hanging with. I think we were probably 12 or something. And, it's funny, like back then I felt like parents didn't really, they didn't check in much. Like I was like, I have this friend named Ben, I'm going to go to his house all the time. And my parents were like, okay. Like nowadays I would want to know the parents and be calling. And I think they probably met him once or twice, but they didn't know that the household was pretty messed up. The parents were going through turmoil and Ben was acting out, right? He's the first one that had me drink a beer, which ended up
at 12?
At 12 years old,
yeah.
Which resulted in me getting what's called a minor in possession.
Yeah.
Cops found us drinking beer. I had to go to court and do the whole thing, right? So he wasn't a good influence, but he was like my buddy. Yeah. And so what you're referring to is he told me one day I came over and he says, let's go down to the study. It's my dad's study. That's where his computer is. I said, okay. He goes, I want to show you some videos. And so he goes on the internet on I can't remember the website name. I guess I won't even say it if I knew it, but first video that pops up is a beheading video. It's the most graphic beheading video of a guy, and they're using a blade, a rusty blade, right? And I couldn't move. Like there was no emotion from me. I just stared at it. I was mostly intrigued, but like sick to my stomach and was paralyzed. When he was done with that video, he went on to some bestiality type stuff with animals and humans and some more torture videos. And he probably showed me 4 or 5. I didn't say a word. He was laughing, like sinister laughing. And obviously he was taking it a different way, thinking it's funny. It scarred me to this day. Yeah. When I think about it, I get a knot in my stomach. And how it messed with me through life is I went into the dark web and looked at even worse videos when I was like 18, 19, and 20, because it popped in my brain like, well, now I'm intrigued about this dark stuff, and it lives in your psyche, man. I don't care what anyone says. You don't forget it. You can't unsee it. I just don't show people those videos. Yeah, exactly. People out there.
I mean, for me, I related because, and what's so crazy is you came in and shared that Papa Roach did a UFC video, and I'm like, oh, hey, I'm a fighter.
Yeah.
And then you shared that, but what I didn't tell you was the song Last Resort. You guys have incredible songs, and Last Resort has turned into something really good for me, and I get pumped up and everything else. But for a little while, it was a little bit scarring to me because nothing from the song, nothing from you guys. But I had a friend, Ken or Kenny. I thought it was unique. Yours was Ben, mine was Ken.
Right.
And people called him both Ken, Kenneth, Kenny. And he used to play the song Last Resort, and he would cut himself. And I know the song's about hope, right? And overcoming that and struggle and challenges and depression and all that. So he got the wrong message from it. And he also was in a sick place, kind of like Ben, where his home life, if my parents knew the home that this was, like there wasn't even a phone inside of it. And so if something went bad when his parents were using or whenever they were off partying and using, we're there alone. But he would blow up like frogs and he would like burn cats and he would like some sadistic stuff. Right. But he was being bullied at school. I was being bullied at school. And like somehow we were like the rejects. We were the ones that sat at the table by ourselves at lunch. And, but Kenny would sit me down one time and he had these floppy disks. I don't know if you remember floppy disks, but
absolutely.
Yeah. So he didn't have to search the web because especially at that time, it was like where it would do and it would, or I can't do the sound of it, but I'm not musically inclined. Was that good? It was good. Yeah. How would you do it? Like the dial up?
You mean for internet?
Internet, yeah.
Dude, wasn't the dial like?
Yeah, that you did better.
Not bad.
Yeah, mine was pretty bad. Yeah,
there you go.
I wish it was.
So, but mine the screen would like take forever. So, anyways, he had this stuff downloaded off of like a picture would take like 5 minutes to download for porn for middle school kids.
We were patient back then.
Yeah,
for those movies
for sure.
Oh God, y'all don't even know patience in the 80s.
Oh,
it was like press the button between HBO and something else for just a glimpse of something.
It was an science project.
The rabbit ears.
It was a science project.
And it would just be.
Okay, I'm not that old, but
close. Anyways, he had these floppy disks and he would put it in, and man, it was some of the darkest stuff. It was people that were doing such self-harm. They were cutting off parts of their fingers, like part by part.
They were willingly doing this to
cutting themselves off. One guy was on hard drugs and he cut his own tongue off. Another guy cut, it was for money. And I guess he was handicapped or something. And he had set up like a guillotine for his own legs. And
are you kidding me?
No, yeah. And this kid was same thing as Ben, laughing. And I'm like paralyzed in fear. And then it was bestiality and beheadings and like the same
How old were you?
story. I was like 12.
Yeah.
12, 13 years
Man,
old.
That's messed up.
And I mean, he went into like some real dark stuff on there and like almost ISIS stuff before ISIS. And I remember that being so scarring to me. And like I just thought it was really unique that you and I both have that story. Even that was kind of Kenny's theme song. And then it became one of my playlists on my like workout songs.
That's badass.
And so I was able to like almost like, I don't know, rewrite the story, what that song meant to me before I even met you.
Yeah.
And then like you're sharing and you get to Papa Roach and all this stuff. And then, but you had this same thing in your childhood. It's another way that like an alcoholic to an alcoholic, if you don't share this shit, you can't relate to people.
100%.
And like, I really related to you in that, like, oh man, I was getting bullied at that time. I don't know if Ben was getting bullied at all.
I'm assuming so. I don't really know. Again, the household there was something off. So perhaps. I'm
pretty sure Kenny's parents were shooting up. I saw him smoking weed. I saw him drinking, but the way that they were laid out,
sure,
I think they were shooting up.
Yeah, I mean, thank God. Once the MIP happened, when I got caught with the police, my mom, she went to work, pulled me away from him. I wasn't allowed to see him. He wasn't a good influence, And that's about the time when I started really establishing my core group of guy friends. About 13, and to this day, we're insanely close. It's the same. Great. It's about 10, 11 of us dudes that do trips, and they're such awesome humans. I found them and, got out of that darkness and drinking early and all that stuff. Cause I dabbled with alcohol at 12 and 13, but I didn't touch it again until 17, 18, like, senior year. Yeah. So I kept it at bay.
What happened in some of those years?
Okay. So I actually started my first band at 14.
Were you going on tour and stuff in high school?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that band called? What was that band called?
Words Fall Short.
Words Fall Short. That's actually pretty dope.
Mm-hmm.
Words Fall Short. So the kind of actually, Amy and I were talking earlier about Tobin. My brother's 13 when he started working with Papa Roach.
Wow.
And when he started joining the band and stuff. And I was 14 playing guitar, and all the kids in town heard there was this young guitar player, all the seniors and juniors. And so this guy, Jeff Williams, he's a bass player. He would hunt me down in the halls and be like, dude, I heard you play guitar and you're ripping, man. Like, come join our band. And I just was scared, like older guy. I didn't want to be in a band. I just played guitar. I want to be left alone in my room, you know?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, I don't know. I'd kind of like make up an excuse and bail. One time I was walking home from school and he whipped around in his car, cut me off with his car. He goes, just come over and jam, dude. I was like, oh yeah, maybe on Sunday. And I'd run off. I was just a shy, like nervous dude.
Yeah.
And I think he did that enough times, cornered me. I said, fine, I'll come to a rehearsal. So I go, it's in the drummer's parents' garage. They turned it into a studio. And I, kind of knew the dudes. They were around high school, but didn't, hang out a lot. The oldest was actually out of high school. He was 20. So I was 14 and I jammed with them and it went good. The other guitarist showed me something on the guitar. It's called a hammer-on and a pull-off. It's basically like bouncing up and down on the string. And he showed me how to do that. And I got it down within that practice. And I thought that was really cool that he showed me new tricks. So I thought, I'm going to be in this band just to learn off of this guy. I wasn't planning on like being in a band. I don't know why I was so against it at the time, but ended up falling in love with those dudes and the music we were making. And my mom let us go. She let me go on a tour when I was 16. I think I was 15 or 16. And we did, I was in Oregon at the time. So we did Oregon, Washington, California, Idaho, Arizona.
Wow.
But it was a full on, pulling our own gear, setting up our own gear, playing the show, tearing it down, driving the 10 hours to the next city. And it was my first taste of this is band life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was an experience.
And then you didn't drink though in those couple of years, or at least not much.
No,
it was more heavy drinking and junior, senior year.
Yeah. So the band didn't drink. That was
okay.
The oldest one. I mean, I was in the band for 3 years.
What was that? The 3 X's? What are those guys called?
Oh yeah.
I forget.
That don't drink.
Yeah.
Is it X's or the slashes?
Oh, maybe it's the slashes. I forget, but it's some sobriety term and like kind of
like
band
a straight
life.
edge.
I know Russell
Straight
Brand
edge.
has a
there
tattoo.
We go.
Like
Straight edger.
Mm-hmm.
Straight. Yes, I would consider the oldest one a straight edger. He was he didn't drink, didn't do drugs. So that was a good influence for me. But, when parties start coming around at senior year, it's, especially in Oregon, in this town I was in, here's how it is, man. There's a movie theater, there's a bowling alley, and then there's sand dunes.
Okay.
Everyone there is like redneck. They have lifted trucks. They're hunters. They go on their ATVs, the 4-wheelers. So when you partied, we would literally go behind stores and steal their pallets, the wooden pallets, throw them in a truck, take them to the beach, and we'd do a bonfire and we'd drink around the bonfire. So we were partying in the woods. We would go into the woods. We'd go up logging roads, like abandoned logging roads, and start fires. And like, it was pretty redneck partying. Yeah. But we would get 30 racks of beer and I remember going real hard. Yeah. 17, 18 into graduation. And it just kind of followed me.
Yeah.
Till the last, 40 something days I'm on now.
Absolutely. You're 40 something days sober?
I think I'm 47.
Nice. I think I'm 54.
Right on. Look at us.
Look at that. I got a little sober before, not a little sober. I got sober before.
Don't put a buffer on it.
I got a little sober before I went.
A tad.
No, I actually moved my sobriety date back. I got sober before November 11th, but I like 11/11. So I just said 11/11.
Pretty hard, dude.
I'm trying not to put the sobriety date up on a pedestal and just do it day by day.
Good.
But yeah, I think if it's November 11th, it's like something like 54 days or something.
Good, bro.
But man, so how did you start? Well, I mean, what was home life like? Was there anything that went on? Say, mom and dad, they're musicians. Are like for me? Let's see how I'd say this. My dad, who couldn't do athletics because he got injured. My mom was a badass athlete. She was a state champion in tennis multiple times. She was a national champion in barrel racing. So like the horses where they like run between 3 barrels and like do it in like 15 seconds or 17 seconds. She was a national champion of that twice. And my dad, being a professional sports photographer for the Mavericks and Cowboys and Texas Rangers, like in DFW and the Green Bay Packers and Denver Broncos, like I felt like I didn't have a choice, but I had to be a pro athlete. And he lived vicariously through me.
Number one fan, number one supporter?
I think number one critic, but
so he was hard.
Maybe number one fan too, in his own way. But he would sometimes get thrown out of games for yelling at refs or yelling at coaches or yelling at players and or parents, I guess. And that was really hard for me because I quit most of the sports he knew about. I quit baseball. I ended up quitting football. I chose wrestling because he didn't know a dang thing about it. I would get off the football field.
Really?
I could have a great game. but I was offsides once. What would I hear about on the drive home when we won? Wasn't good tackle, good block. It was, at least what I heard, right, was you were offsides. Why were you offsides? You got to get better. I talked to your coach after the game. I'm calling him and I'm just like,
damn, Pops.
Like, yeah. So I chose wrestling because, I lost every match. I won one match by 1 point in my first like over a year of wrestling. So it's pretty bad. And my dad, when I get off the mat, he would say, you shoulda. And I go, I shoulda what? Because he didn't know what I should have done. And I'm like, exactly. Let me learn how to do this and do it on my own. And so that's kind of like, it was on my own journey, at least my own sport. I wanted to be an athlete.
You killed it in that sport, dude.
Yeah.
That was how cool is that? You picked it to like get your dad out of there a little bit and you murdered it in that sport.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. And I love the sport and I love the chess match of it. And I love that I chose it. But I wonder, like, for you, was it ever a choice because your parents were both musicians? And then, like, what was the family life dynamic? And did any of that contribute maybe to a reason why you were at treatment?
Yeah, I mean, my parents have always been in bands together. So growing up, like back to the guitar, peeing in the guitar story, they were always in the living room set up playing with their cover bands. They were in cover bands with my aunts and uncles. So I always saw it. I knew that I loved music. I had an interest in music, but no, they never forced it on me. My dad never, put a guitar in my hands or put a drum in my hands. I actually wanted to be, up until about 8, I wanted to be a cartoonist.
Oh,
I was obsessed with Garfield.
Yeah.
And so
nice.
I was drawing Garfield cartoons daily, hours, dude. After school, 6 hours.
What was the appeal about Garfield? I don't really know about him.
I can't tell you.
Okay.
I can't tell you. Like
Big Orange Cat.
Like I was looking at Calvin and Hobbes. I was looking at Peanuts Gang. Garfield, just the way that Jim Davis, the creator, draws him. It's big features. He has big eyes and he has big stripes. And I just was drawn to the way he had his characters. And so I would start by tracing. I'd put a paper over and I'd trace. And then I learned how to do it myself. And I would start setting up scenes, like the actual blocks, and tell stories with cartooning. And it's like, that's what's cool. My parents just, whatever outlet I wanted to do, they just let me do it.
That's cool.
And it wasn't until 8. I think I was with my dad one day in the studio watching him. I was like, I want a drum set. He's like, you want a drum set? I was like, okay. Or he goes, okay. And he goes, you should ask Santa for it, because it was like October, right? And so I was like, okay. So I wrote a note to Santa. We go to my grandma's house in Oregon for Christmas. Everyone's there. Like my mom's one of 8, right? So I got aunts and uncles, cousins running around. And boom, there's a drum kit from Santa, dude. It was a 3-piece too. It was a kick drum, it was a snare, and then the hi-hat came out of the kick drum. So it wasn't even a full kit. But there was a moment that happened there that changed my life. Like I got the kit in the living room with the people, but I said, can I go play it in grandma's room? So they put me in grandma's room. Everyone was out opening other presents and I'm playing this kit. And obviously I'm terrible, right? I'm 8 years old. And I'm just like, and one by one, each family member came in and poked their head in and said, great job, dude.
Wow.
Anthony, you're doing so good, buddy. Like, keep going. And I'd be like, thanks. And I'd keep playing. And then my aunt would come in. Anthony, I'm proud of you. They changed my life because they could have been like, keep it down. It's Christmas.
Yeah.
Everyone came in and gave me praise. And I remember sitting with the drumsticks and I literally said out loud, I'm like, I'm going to be a rock star.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to play music. That was it. I haven't stopped since that moment, no matter what job I've had in my life. I've been in coffee shops and I've been a paint salesman door to door. Like it doesn't stop. I go home and play my music. And it was that moment, I think, where it started.
Wow. This podcast is brought to you by Onnit. Onnit.com/overcome. Wow. I feel great right now because I just took Alpha Brain, it was a couple hours ago, but Alpha Brain Black Label. What is Black Label? I'm holding it right here if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're not, it's the dopest packaging. It's Alpha Brain Black Label. Supercharged formula promotes mental processing speed and laser focus and extreme productivity. Stay in the zone. When you open this thing up, it's so cool.
I would venture to say it's sexy.
It's sexy.
It's nice job
black
on it.
Cardboard on the outside, but it's an incredible, think what's in it?
Can I just say I took it for the first time today?
And how do you feel?
I feel really good. I feel really good. So I was going to say, dudes, get it for your lady. order it because
absolutely.
I'm feeling really good. And I was wanting to take it when you were at treatment, but you took it with you.
Me. I'm sorry.
And I didn't have it. And so now it's back. And so
what's really cool is it's this metal bottle. And I mean, that's not necessarily what's cool. It's pretty dope. But I like that I can switch it up because I really like the focus shots, which are drinks. And I really like the packets, which are more drinks. But these are capsules. And if you just are on the go, they have Alpha Brain just capsules as well. But this is pretty nice. There isn't an Alpha Brain Black Label that's in a drink, but in the capsules. And
one capsule is contained in Total Human as well in the morning packet.
So if you got a Black Label, you would only have to take like a couple of those.
Well, they say don't combine them, but I did. Yeah. I not only took my Total Human this morning, but then I took Black Label and then I drank a packet. So I only took 2 Black Label when I took it. But that was plenty.
On top of
Dude, I'm so alpha brained right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to be
let's make sure you don't take too much, but promotes razor sharp focus, aids extreme productivity, and supports what? Eye health. And I actually love that because I have my vision has been going a little bit on my right eye. And
oh my God.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't have to wear glasses.
That's cool. Well, you know what? Keep taking this and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm really grateful for all of our listeners. I'm also incredibly grateful for Onnit for being our first podcast sponsor and also donating to Fight for the Forgotten, being one of our donors, planning on doing that. And I'm so grateful for this partnership with them because it means so much to me. So a great way you can support Overcome with Justin Wren and me and Fight for the Forgotten is to support Onnit. Please go to onnit.com/overcome and do yourself a favor, as well as a favor to this podcast and the nonprofit. Why don't you buy yourself some supplements at onnit.com/overcome. Thanks so much. That's powerful. That's profound. Amy, you have anything on that? You're a musician. And then
I just think that's really profound and amazing. You know, we should all be so lucky to have just this, to just feel that.
Very grateful.
So many people spend their lives not ever knowing.
100%.
And where do you think that happened from? Do you think it was your dad or your mom that maybe, or do you think it was just a family dynamic that everyone felt like they needed to come, not needed, but wanted to come tell you, good job, keep going?
It's the family dynamic. It's how my family is.
Wow.
It's very supportive. I think they just saw my passion, my eyes light up for something. And, you know, when you see a kid do that, you get behind him. And I just think it's cool that I know that I was annoying the heck out of the house. You know, that's a loud thing to be doing. And no one said, be quiet. They just came in and said, great job. And that moment happened. I remember that moment like it was yesterday. And so like Amy just said, I feel fortunate that, at high school, when you're about to get your letters of recommendation for colleges and you're starting to scout, I remember that happening. And there's, in the high school I was in, there was these teams that they assigned to you to help you write the letters and get into college. And I remember walking into my team, I'm like, I'm going to play music. And they're like, well, you really should have this back. You should go to college and play music. And I was like, I'm going to go play music. And when I brought that to my mom, she said, okay. And I don't think she would have said okay if I hadn't have proven to her when I went on those tours when I was 15. And when I sat in my bedroom every day after school and played guitar until my fingers bled, if she hadn't seen all that, she probably would have been like, I think you should go to college.
Wow.
She trusted me.
Yeah, that's so cool. You're reminding me of a documentary I watched recently on Netflix called The Alpinist. I'll just say that and tell people that there's this guy in Canada that basically started breaking records climbing like free solo. It's the same people that made the documentary Free Solo of like guys climb without ropes and doing it alone. And this guy in Canada just did it because he loved it. And his mom took him out of school basically because he wasn't supposed to be in school. He was supposed to be in the wild. And she basically told him at 16, go climb mountains like all over the world. And it was incredible, the love of his mother. That's really incredible, man. I love that story.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was very, very lucky. And I was in that small town and I had a girlfriend at the time that moved to Portland, Oregon. And I was like, that's the next move. I need to get up to Portland. And so my mom encouraged me to go up there. I remember being very nervous for that, but she said, give it 6 months.
Yeah.
Leaving the nest, is a big deal. And she's like, just give it 6 months.
Yeah.
And when I moved up to Portland, dude, it was game over. Like experiencing life on my own as a young man and the people I was meeting and the trips and journeys I was going on, I never looked back. I was like, I love this adult stuff, dude.
Yeah. You remind me. So I was a 10-time state champion in Texas wrestling. And 5-time All-American, I won some national championships and stuff. And every college wanted me to come there, right? And I felt almost betrayed by my dad because my coaches went to Oklahoma State University, and they were both Olympic gold medalists. And they said, this is kind of the journey to that. But I wasn't a freestyle wrestler, which is like leg attacks and like staying really low to the ground. I was a Greco guy. So even though they were my coaches, I was a thrower. I didn't like to grab people's legs. I like to throw them through the air.
Got it. And
I like to make them land on their head, and because that kind of ends the match. But my dad just started really saying, and I love my dad, but he was saying, you need to go to this university. You need to take this full scholarship. You need to do this. But my mom, seeing the love in my eyes for Greco and one of my coaches, I had an Olympic gold medalist come down and basically say, sign for the full scholarship with like 2 other Olympic gold medalists. There's 3 Olympic gold medalists in the room saying, sign this. It's a full ride scholarship. And my dad there saying, this is what I've been telling you, you got to do it. And I remember just feeling in my gut, like I'm going to the Olympic Training Center out of high school. That's my path. That's what I'm going to do. And I told my mom that, and I told those other coaches that, and they go, but if you don't win the national championship, and I was going to be the first Texan to win the Greco-Roman national championship.
Really?
Yeah. And they're like, if you don't win it, you won't be able to go. Like, so they'll fill the spot for this full scholarship, and you'll miss the mark. Like you'll have to, like the tournaments after when you need to sign, and they have to fill the spot, and they're trying to win NCAA championships and stuff like that. And there was other universities that kind of did the same. And I just remember I had to stay firm. I had to stay firm and say, this is my journey.
You knew
this is my path. And my mom was like, he's going to win it. And I was like, but what if he doesn't? And my mom was like, he's going to do it.
What's the story where you practiced? Sorry to interrupt you, but I just remember you told me a story of you practicing this specific move over and over and over, and you won a big match, right?
Yeah, well, it was visualization. So my coaches that said, go home and write down state champion, put it somewhere you can see it, and every day, whether you're brushing your teeth or above your bed. So they said basically the mirror in the bathroom or above the bed. And they said, write down state champion. By the time you're a senior, we'll make you a state champion. So there's 3 styles of wrestling. That's why I won 10 styles of state championships, because I won 3 of the styles 3 times and another one 4 times. Wait, I won 3. Wait, anyways, I don't know, but I won them a bunch.
1 4 times, 2
1 4 times, 2 3 times. There we go.
The math.
That's the math. Thank you. I get hit in the head for a living, so I don't do math. And I forget some stuff. But basically, I went home and I was like you. I was like ambitious and wanted to be resilient. And so I went home and wrote down national champion. And instead of putting it in one place, I put it in my bathroom and above my bed.
Love it.
And then I told it, they came back and we reported, and they said, and they kind of told a bunch of guys to do it, right? Some guys did it, some guys didn't. And then they asked me, and I go, I wrote national champion. I put it in 2 spots, and like, so I can wake up and start my day to brush my teeth thinking about it. I could go to sleep dreaming about it. And they said, okay. So since I took interest, and a coach wants to be coaching, right? And if you show that you're coachable, they'll take more interest in you. That's what I've come to learn. Like even our recovery specialists, once they saw we wanted it, they leaned in. If you didn't really want recovery, they would try, but they would give they want to coach the guys that want to listen. So I wrote down, or they said, clip out 2 pictures of moves that you want to learn, because we're not going to teach you 10 or 20 moves. I had to fast track because I started wrestling late in life. So they're like, we want you to learn 1 or 2 moves. Do that move 10,000 times. So that way it doesn't matter if everyone knows this is his 1 move or these are his 2 moves. You're going to get it anyways, because you're a master at it. Instead of teaching you 10 moves 100 times.
Master a couple.
Right. Yeah. And Bruce Lee had something like that. Fear the man that doesn't train 10,000 kicks or 100 kicks 10 times. Fear the guy that trained 1 kick 10,000 times.
Right.
And so I clipped out a lateral drop and a belly to back suplex. And above my bed, I put the 2 wrestling moves. I put a lateral drop on the left, and I put a belly to back suplex where you throw a guy on his head on the right. So my first national championship, I won with the move on the left. And the second national championship I won, going against a guy that was like undefeated and hadn't had a point scored on him for like years. I won with the move on the right. Now in my last fight, I told Jim Stewart, my executive director, I told my mom that in this fight, I'm going to come out, I'm going to feint some throws or some punches, and then I'm going to hit a lateral drop. When he stands up, I'm going to hit a belly to back suplex. And once he's down, I'm going to hit an arm triangle. And so basically it's the move on the left and the right with a finishing move. And so that's literally how I won my last fight.
That's so cool,
I went out
man.
there and I did the exact thing. So there's power in visualization.
I love how you were so determined with those two and just made it happen.
Yeah.
Because it's instinct at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
You practice so much, like you're like, I'm going to get this.
Yeah. Guys don't want me to have my hands locked. If I have my hands locked around you, that's my world.
Good night.
And so, yeah, good night.
Night.
You're going down. So, that's where I get my takedowns, like pretty much 100% of the time. And
that's awesome, though.
So yeah, thanks. I want you to come to my fight. I'll come to your concert.
Okay, we'll do that. Can I get tickets to your fight, dude?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
We'll figure it out. Well, they give me they're a little stingy with fight tickets, but yeah, we have Amy, we have my mom, and we'll work it out.
You heard it here on the podcast.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm going.
You're right. You're going. I'd love to. I'll see if I can get a whole section together.
Cool, dude.
That'd be awesome. Well, all right. So I went through a divorce, or my parents having a divorce, and I went through a divorce. But I went through a divorce late in life, which is a little weird being 30 years old and that happening. Did you share that happened with you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, my parents divorced when I was 18.
18, that's right.
And it was such a blow because I didn't see it. No one saw it coming. You know, I really haven't talked to them too in depth about it, but I would assume that they weren't doing great for maybe a couple years, but decided to kind of hold off until I graduated to really tell the family.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I don't knock them for that. They were doing what they think is best. But when it did come out, it was like, wait, whoa.
Yeah.
I just graduated and you guys are splitting. Like in my head, it was like, I just heard friends' parents had divorced when they were 4 or 5. And so I just thought, okay, this is a big blow, but I stayed positive. And, it just kind of turned, looking back on it, it turned in, I think I was a little too involved is what I was telling you guys back at the ranch. I wouldn't change anything, but I basically became my dad's best friend. My mom ended up moving out of the house and I didn't see her a lot, but my dad was, a divorce is crushing.
Yeah. And
so I became my dad's best friend and he would come to me a lot and talk to me about the divorce and I would hold him. And I just remember going, man, I got to man up, like I love my dad. I'm going to be here for my father. And he talked to me a lot about it. He had me look into a few things sometimes on my mom and keep some tabs and stuff like that. And I would do it because I love him and I wanted him to feel better. But looking back on it, I think I was a little too involved and I eventually imploded, one night. I think I broke down and went to a family friend's house. Because I'd been taking care of the family is what I was doing.
Yeah.
My little brother was 13. I was looking after him. My sister was out of the house, but keeping in touch. I just felt like I was the glue. I had to be in town. Because at that point I wanted to graduate and go right to Los Angeles. That was my plan, was go and do music, go meet up with Tobin, my brother. And the divorce, I said, I need to hang back, and it was a big growing up moment, the divorce. And, it's just part of life, and they're both doing amazing now. And,
that's awesome. Nothing to knock them at all because divorce happens. I've been divorced once. Amy's been divorced twice, and it can be part of life, and you can come out of it stronger and everything else. I just I feel like sometimes people in addiction can sometimes have excuses to use, or play the victim, right? And so I've been thinking about some of that. And was my mom and dad's divorce a reason that I used more? Because like I kind of had it under control before that. And I had 4 or 5 years sober, but then their divorce, my divorce, and then COVID and all sorts of stuff, everything just kind of blew up at once. And, but really what you queued up in that story was you wanted to go meet up with Tobin. How did you find out about your brother and his talents?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. So Tobin's my half brother. We have the same father, different mothers. And so growing up, I knew I had a half brother. I just didn't see him often. Like there's home videos of us from when I was like 3 hanging out, but I don't remember that. And the only times I really remember him is going to his concerts once the band blew up, right? So at 14, I remember going to Portland to a concert. I think at 17 or 18, I went to a concert, but like, I don't really have memories of him. And we weren't in contact because he was off doing the band thing. It's like, he was busy and all over the world. And so I just remember having this longing to know him and to meet him. But I don't know. It just, my dad and him didn't keep in contact. And so we just never saw him. But I remember being 10 years old. My dad picked me up from school, 5th grade. And he goes, you know your brother's band? I'm like, yeah, Papa Roach. Like, yeah. And he goes, okay, well, they just got signed and their song's doing really well. And I remember him putting in the CD and it was Last Resort. And I know I might be biased because it's my brother, but I was like, what is this? What is this amazing sound? What is that guitar riff? Something was changing in me. Like hard rock was creeping into my veins then.
Yeah.
Right. And I went, this is so sick. And then he played the next song on the album, which is that's my song I wrote for them. Look at me plugging. Between Angels and Insects. Hit hard, dude. And the lyrics are all about coming from a messed up childhood and real raw lyrics and stuff. So something changed that day too in the car. And then I see him on Jay Leno. That weekend, I think my dad goes, come on in. Your brother's on Jay Leno. And I'm like looking at the screen at my brother who looks just like me. And I'm like, what? Next weekend, he's on David Letterman. Next weekend, he's on TRL. If you remember Total Request Live.
Yeah. Who was that?
Carson Daly.
Carson Daly. Yeah.
Which he was the biggest thing ever.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just was like so enamored by that. And it made me want to know him more. And just again, like life happens and I didn't get to see him too much. But when I decided to stay in Oregon for the divorce, stuck around for a year, family seemed cool. So I moved to Portland, but I made a phone call to him and he answered. And I said, I want to come live with you and I want to do music. And he's like, okay, like you want to come into LA? I said, yeah. And he goes, all right, I want you to bust your ass in Portland first. He's like, I want you to show me that you want to be a musician. And I was like, okay, like what? I'm like asking him what to do. He's like, do open mic nights, play gigs, show me, what you got. And I really respect him for that he didn't just say, come live with me, I'm going to give you a job or something. He wanted to see if I had it, and so I was in Portland for 3 years and I did just that. I think my first gig was a coffee shop, which I had a residency at. I played weddings, I played bars, and I did some singer-songwriter contests. And I won one of them actually. So I was kind of showing him like, look what I'm doing, bro. Like, check it out. And he was always like, great job, man. And so I busted my ass and I think I was 21. And he said, all right, come down, like come live with me. And I was so excited to move to LA, but also I was getting to know my brother.
Right.
I didn't know him, dude. It's like see him at, a Christmas here and there and a concert backstage is not enough time.
Yeah.
How many years apart are you guys?
We're 10 years apart.
Okay.
Yep. So, when I'm 10, he's 20.
Yeah.
So I moved in with him and his wife and her son, Jaden. And I lived with them for probably 3 years. And just, dude, the bond is like, he's more like my lost twin than a brother, or than a half brother. I mean, we have the same interests. We have the same laugh. We have the same everything. And we're so insanely close right now. And that bond was beautiful, dude. And his wife is amazing, Amber. And they took me in and kind of showed me LA. I couldn't sleep the first month of living in Los Angeles. I could not sleep because I was like, I'm in LA. This is where music happens.
Yeah.
Hollywood Boulevard's right down the road. I mean, I was just in love with the culture and to be honest, the weather.
Yeah.
Coming from Portland.
Oregon. Yeah,
dude,
for sure.
It's
raining, dark,
hail.
Yep.
And so to have sun every day and music, I was just elated. And that's eventually what led me to working for the band. Was living with him. Yeah.
And how'd that go working for the band? I mean, because you kind of had to prove that you've got it. You're not just his little brother, but like you can write songs and you can play music and that you put in the effort and the work.
Yeah. And see, when it started out there, I wasn't being brought in as a writer. So they weren't even looking for that. It was an opportunity that I saw to where I could probably work up to the place I am now. But basically what happened is I moved in with them. I was applying for jobs at coffee shops. That's all I really knew how to do was coffee and nothing was sticking. I was starting to run out of money. And even though he wasn't charging me rent or anything, still LA is like $17 for a
water
orange juice. And I was like, I'm running out of money. And he goes, you know what, dude, I just got the call. We're going to be writing a brand new record in Sacramento. And we're going to be living in Sacramento at a studio that the band owned, right? And it was the coolest thing. It was this live-in studio. So state of the art, there's a huge live room. There's the tracking room. And then there was a bunk room where you could sleep in a full kitchen. And so he goes, would you want to be the assistant? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even care what that entails. Like, I don't care what you pay me. Like, let me get in on it. And so we drove up to Sacramento. I remember cleaning the joint. It hadn't been, no one had lived in it or worked in it for like 2 years. So in the cracks of the floor, there was weeds growing up about 2 feet high. It was like a jungle in the studio.
Yeah.
So I was pulling weeds, cleaning it. That was my first task. And then the first day of work, they're like, you're going to be the guy, you know, getting the groceries, cooking the meals, doing our laundry. You're going to wrap cables. If we need you to make a run to a Guitar Center to grab something, you get that. And I said, cool. So I was doing that job every day and loving it, dude. I was on a high. I was with a massive rock band, watching them track a record. And I just decided, like, I'm going to start throwing them demos.
Yeah.
I'm going to start throwing them demos. Like, I felt weird about it, but like, I'm going to do this. So I kept showing them these demos I was writing, like, check out this riff, check out this chord progression. And they were like, cool, we're working, you know, it's cool. It's really good. Good job, dude, but we're working. And I'm like, okay, well, check this riff. And so this one riff comes across the table and they hear it and they're like, damn, okay, this has got some bounce. And the producer at the time, James, he said, let's track it. Let's just track it. And my heart's beating, dude.
What does that mean for someone that doesn't know? Track it.
So track it means lay it down. Like, you know, a demo is just a demo until you put it onto tape or put it onto the workstation. And so basically what that means is let's record it and see how it sounds through the speakers. And let's put a vocal on it. Let's have the drummer come in and put a beat to it. That means track it.
Wow.
And so that was a big step because that means, okay, it's being put on the list maybe of making the record.
Wow.
And so for me, never having written a song ever, I was stoked and it ended up making the record, right? I just remember one day the producer brought us all in. We went through I think they wrote 30 songs, 30 demos for that record, and you picked the best 11. And he goes, this one we got to keep, man. You just can't deny a riff like this. And I was in the back going, wow, like my riff is going to be on a Papa Roach record, you know, because I look up to them I'm a fan of the band, dude. That's the thing is like, I've been a fan of the band, even though my brother's in it. I love what they do. And so then more good news, about a month later, they're on a conference call and the manager says, I think we're going to make the song is called Where Did the Angels Go? We're going to make that the first single. And I went, the first single. So it's going to be on the radio. It's going to be pushed, you know, and they're going to make a music video for it. I just didn't believe it was even happening. And they put the song out and it went to #1 on the active rock charts.
Wow.
And it stayed there for 2 or 3 weeks, I think.
Wow.
And
was that your second song?
First.
Oh, first. That was your first one. Okay.
First song. Yeah.
Wow.
First song that I'd written like commercially.
Yeah. And it went to #1.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I just, you know, I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
That is.
It inspired me. And so what it did is I think the band was like, okay, cool, he can write.
Yeah.
You know, and they didn't say come in as a writer, but they just noted, okay, Anthony can write. Because I continued as their assistant for years after that and kept doing the demo thing on the next record, which I ended up making 4 songs on the following record. And then they brought me in as a writer for the third. They finally said, all right, come in as another writer on these. And so it was beautiful. I'm still getting to do that with them. And
how many songs would you say you've written now?
For them?
For them.
Probably like 35.
Wow.
At this point, 34.
35 songs.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's a veteran move, man.
I'll clarify, co-write. There's a big difference.
Yeah, sure.
Co-writing, there's, you know, the band writes them as well, but I'm just involved in some of the riffs and progressions and all that stuff. But
that's awesome. Man.
It's a badass team, man. I'm very fortunate.
Yeah.
So
that's great. So where in this story, because you start touring, I mean, there was 1 year you're on the road 200 days.
Yeah, I counted 1 year. It was, I think it was 2015 or 16. We went to Russia in the dead of winter.
Nice.
We went to Russia first.
I've been there a couple of times to wrestle and coach fighting, and it's a different world.
It's a trip,
yeah.
Especially
everyone's very stoic.
Very stoked people.
Yeah.
I love them though, dude.
Yeah, I did too.
Like, oh my gosh, I have some funny stories of the Russian fans because they are so stoic. Like they'll bring you treats and you'll be like, thank you so much. Oh, like I really appreciate this. And they'll be like, you eat now?
I'm they want to watch
right now? No, I'll take it to my room and I'll eat it. They're like, why? Like confused at why I'm not eating their pastry or whatever. I'm like, no, I really enjoy this. Thank you.
Or they'll just open their jacket and they've got bottles of vodka right there. Here you go.
Take a sip. And dude, they would wait. I remember we pulled up in the van. It was blizzard, snowing out, and they were in their t-shirts.
Wow.
That's the weather.
Because they want to show you that they got your shirt on.
The merch was on and they were in line waiting to get into the venue in the snow, in the blizzard, just all good. I'm
just chilling. Yeah.
So Russia, this year in particular was Russia. And then we hit Europe and then we did a 6-week US run, came home for 2 days and did another 6-week run.
Wow.
Normally it goes, you go out for 6 weeks on a tour, come home for 3 to 4 weeks, basically a month off to recoup.
Right.
And then you go out. I just remember an offer came in where the team said, hey, you can do the States and then you can hit another market in the States 2 days after you get home. You want to do it. And I remember that being really tough because it's, it's airports, planes, trains, and automobiles, being away from loved ones. So we did back-to-back tours. I think we went to Europe again in the winter and then some other tour at before Christmas. So all in all, it was like 197 days or something.
Wow.
And it was just a lot of work.
A lot of work. And in this time, did you see your alcoholism go up? Because I know that one of your, at least previous, like rituals before you go out there, almost like a pre-fight ritual or routine, like warm up, right? What do you guys do to warm up before you head out?
So we all do different things. Our singer, Jacoby, he likes to isolate. He has an hour warm up that he does. And it's hilarious because he has his AirPods in and what he's listening to is a vocal coach going like, oh, like that stuff.
I hear Amy doing that at least once a week at
I still take
home.
voice lessons.
And Tipsy, our dog, sings with her whenever she's doing the vocal warm-ups. So yeah,
so
similar.
Yeah.
You know how it goes.
Oh yeah.
So he's doing that, which is funny because you just hear him, you don't hear the vocal coach. But he'll usually go into another room. My brother stretches. My brother gets ready like it's a fight. He's like in pigeon stretch and downward dog and. Our guitar player, Jerry, he'll get the guitar and he'll do these runs on the guitar to warm up his fingers. Tony, our drummer, has a pad. It's a practice pad, so it's not loud. So he's kind of doing, and we're always jamming music, right? We'll put on some kind of, I don't know, it changes every night. It's usually hip hop or something. And so I'm like, I warm up on guitar and stretch, but absolutely I'm drinking.
Yeah.
Our drummer does not drink before the show. He's superstitious about that. He does not want to fuck up one thing. And I love that about him. Our guitar player, Jerry, has never drank.
Wow.
He's in his 40s. He's never drank.
Wow.
Through all of Papa Roach's success, nothing.
Wow.
He's just an awesome guy. Doesn't want to fuck with it. Our singer's 10 years sober, 11 years sober.
Wow.
And has been through recovery.
Jacoby. Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll be honest and just say that, the fighting world, win or lose, you have an excuse to use. And hearing you say that, like, it's just part of it, rock and roll. And, and it's the lifestyle of like touring and stuff. But to hear that your guys, one's never drank, one's in recovery, one doesn't drink before shows.
Yep.
Like you'll be supported there.
100%.
I think anytime it's a long time band,
Mm-hmm.
that's what you see.
If we were 21, I don't know if it'd be the case.
No, but when a band has this much staying power for that long, there usually sobriety's involved.
Yeah. Well, you're getting older. I mean, for Jacoby, I can't understand how his voice stays intact on tour. He is screaming. He is amazing. Singing at the top of his range. And even when we're not playing a song and he's talking to the crowd, he's screaming. And his voice doesn't go out, dude. So I'm like, if he were drinking and using and stuff, it probably would go out all the time. So he's like honey, lemon, ginger, water guy. He takes care of himself.
Yeah.
So you're right. You kind of have to. But my brother and I will have some shots, and I never go overboard, but I have gone overboard.
Ooh, can we share that story in Canada?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have gone overboard one time.
Let's hear about that one.
When was that?
Okay, this was probably 2019, I would say. And so we had a merch guy from Canada that he was our merch dude through Europe. I think actually he was our merch guy for about a year and a half through all territories. He's such a great dude. He became one of my good friends, but he ended up leaving us and living back in Canada. So we went through Winnipeg and he's like, dude, you're in my city. So do you want to go get some beers before the show? And normally like I have my shots before the show. If we play at 9,
what? 2 shots before you go on?
Probably 3.
2, 3. Okay.
Yeah. 3 shots. I'll do 1 on the bus, 2 in the room. But if we play at 9, I'm starting at 7:45 on that. Right. So he hits me up at 2 p.m. He's like, do you want to go out? And I was like, sure, a beer, it can't hurt. So we go to like a Buffalo Wild Wings or something, and I get an IPA, which was my first mistake because those are like 9%. And I had one, and he said, you want to get another round? I'm like, all right, let's do another. Ended up having 4. Went back to the bus, laid down on my bunk, ended up kind of taking a nap, which I never do. So I already kind of noticed, I'm walking on thin ice here. So my genius idea was, well, whiskey has sugar in it. And whiskey's what you drink before show. Maybe you just need that to kind of wake up. Not an energy drink. I thought whiskey. So I took my shots on the bus more than I normally do because I was nervous. Think I needed to wake up and get in my zone. Went in the dressing room, took a few more because I just kept getting nervous. I just thought I never drink this early, right? So we go on stage. The set's fine because I'm not drunk yet. Hasn't kicked in yet. But I think midway through, we have a song called Falling Apart. And Falling Apart.
And you're falling apart.
That's appropriate.
Isn't that funny? I didn't even think about that.
Really?
Dude.
Yeah.
It was a moment. So I'm standing, right? And I can feel myself kind of doing the wobble thing where I didn't know where my center of gravity was. And I went, just keep your feet planted. Let's play. So how that song starts, our guitar player, Jerry, and I start on just guitar. There's no drums, bass, or anything going on. So all you're hearing through the main speakers is our guitars. I'm playing the wrong note the whole time.
Oh.
Okay. So it's this just like staccato, like dung, dung, dung. And I'm like, dun, 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 dun. And our singer is singing and looking back at me with this look like, I'm going to fucking kill you. He thought I was doing it on purpose or something because I don't mess up.
Yeah.
Like I take it seriously.
Yeah.
I was drunk, dude. Didn't even hear it in my in-ear monitors. And I'm hitting the wrong note. And so my genius idea was, well, it can't be my fault. My guitar tech must have handed me the wrong guitar. So mid-song, I run off stage somehow, go up to him and I'm yelling, is this the right guitar? He's like, what? I'm like, is this the right guitar? It doesn't sound right. He's like, yeah, this is the same guitar you use every night. And I'm like, I don't believe it. And I go back up on, and I think I like acted like I was playing the rest of that song because I was so insecure at that point.
The good call though.
Turn off the guitar. So insecure that because now I know something's wrong and it's me and I'm flushed and I'm just like, so I turned off the guitar and stopped playing that song, got my shit together somehow. I actually motioned to the assistant to go get me another whiskey. This is what's crazy about addicts.
Yeah. Help the listeners understand like about addicts, alcoholics, what goes on in your mind at this point.
At that point, I mean, now we know what's going on in our brains with, the science behind the brain, but we'll get into that later. But you're being told that more is better. More is the reward. The reward system in your brain is telling you this is the right thing to do. Not stop drinking, not drink water, but let's keep using that drug because you're living in that dopamine high. And when it starts fizzling out, you need to get back to the dopamine high. And so I remember motioning to our guy, Will, I said, get me with this much in a cup. And I drank that on stage, dude.
Wow.
And here, the fucked up thing is it actually
for people that are just listening, that's like what, 4 or 5?
4 shots, 5 shots?
5, 6. It's a lot.
On top of what I'd already drank.
In a cup, it's at least 5 or 6.
Because that's what my brain's saying. If you keep drinking this, and here's the crazy thing, it kind of worked because I then got so drunk I wasn't insecure anymore and I let my shit go on autopilot and I finished the set. I probably played bad, but I got through it with no more like messed up notes.
Your bad playing is probably still pretty good.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. I don't want to see that YouTube concert, but
because afterwards,
usually we go off stage, we all go back in the dressing room and we talk about the set and how the set went. I was terrified of facing them. I dropped my shit off in the dressing room. I went straight to the tour bus. I put in a quesadilla into the microwave for my after show food. And instead of hitting 30 seconds, I somehow hit 8 minutes.
Oh,
okay. All the alcohol hit me at this point, and I jump in my bunk on the top. I'm on the top bunk of the bus, so I had to crawl in my bunk, face planted like this, and pass out with my arms behind me. I wake up to screams on the bus. Black smoke is billowing through the whole bus because 8 minutes with a quesadilla burns the damn thing.
Yeah.
And my brother, it's my brother, and he goes, "What the fuck is going on, dude?" And he's like, "That note on stage, and you're passed out. Like, what's up?" And I'm like, "I don't even know. I can't talk to you about it right now." I was so embarrassed and so drunk, and all I cared about was like, "Is the bus okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, the bus is fine," but it stained the bus. It smelled like black smoke for days, and I I don't know, man. I was so ashamed of myself.
I get it.
I was so ashamed of myself. And we talked about it the next day. But the crazy thing is no one asked me like, do you have a drinking problem? Like no one ever said like, do you need to pull back? They just kind of were like, hey man, let's do better tomorrow. And I think in a way I wanted someone to kind of check me because I had some outbursts like that in my life where I was kind of crying out. I don't know if that was one, but I've noticed that through my history,
Yeah. Well, I mean, thanks for sharing. Because that's hard to share like just with another person, but it's going to help somebody. I mean, I really think that's going to help somebody that listens to this, that hears this, because, I think what they told us back at what we call the ranch is, you got to examine the evidence just like a lawyer would. And you got to like check the facts, right? Examine the evidence, check the facts. And the fact of the matter is like, that was the start that you could see like, okay, this isn't manageable.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Because one of the things we did at the ranch or what you guys, the group of guys helped me do was look at the timeline of my life and my drinking and where it started to pick up. And for me to jeopardize my job and the show, because we take that really seriously, man, I'm representing Papa Roach. Right. So if I'm hitting wrong notes and stumbling on stage, it's just, you can't do that. For me to jeopardize my job was a big moment for me because I'd never done it up until that point. And so I do think that's the start of where I went, screw it. I'm going to go out before and drink. And luckily that moment did happen and it scared me into never letting that happen again.
Right.
I wasn't going out and getting beers with people after that moment,
Yeah.
So I've kept it pretty chill.
Well, so let's progress to Austin. At least if you want to go there, where you moved here back in April of 2021, and you're dating Blaze.
Yeah.
And you're coming here to get close to Tobin and Amber and Arrow. And you moved down close to Rainey Street. Is that right? Or kind of downtown?
East 7th.
East 7th. Okay.
Yeah. Not far from Congress.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, which is a area where it's nice.
It's coming up.
It's coming up. And, but bars aren't far away, I don't think. And
no.
Yeah.
So that here's
when COVID hit. So COVID.
Yeah. Well, COVID, back real quick, backtracking to March of 2020. This is kind of a crazy story. So my drinking had gotten pretty bad. So that story I told about Pop Roach was early 2019 when I went on stage and played the wrong note. From that moment, my drinking was getting worse and worse and worse. I was like, when I'd come home off tour, me and my roommate were killing half of a fifth of whiskey each.
Wow.
Every day. And so I remember drinking really heavily one night. We were about to go on Pop Roach's, one of their biggest headlining tours in Europe. And this tour was going to happen in February, March of 2020. This is probably late January at this point. And I partied all night, dude. I woke up with the most massive headache and I'm laying in bed and I see all these texts from the band and management, which doesn't happen. And I open the first text from my brother. All it says is, Jerry broke his fingers. You're up.
Ooh.
Jerry is our lead guitar player. And I'm hungover and I'm like, Jerry broke his fingers. I'm up. Like what? And then I look at, our manager, I look at our singer and they're like, hey man, you need to step in and fill Jerry's shoes for the tour. And I'm hungover and I'm like, I just didn't know what to think. And I called my brother. He goes, yeah, man, what happened is he was trying to grab his dog's collar and these two fingers got caught in the dog's collar and he has a big dog.
Yeah.
And it snapped both bones in his finger. And this is the guitar hand.
Wow.
So
the
not
moneymakers.
The moneymakers, man. And so I was like, okay, so what's entailed in this, Tobin? What do I got to learn? He's like, well, we have 30 songs that we play live. You need to learn Jerry's parts. And so that was daunting because I had to unlearn my parts. I'm playing different parts than him and I'm playing percussion and keys. And I have to now learn his parts, the lead parts. And we had 2 weeks till tour. And so it was just a bad time because my alcoholism was getting really bad. And now I needed to step up for the band. So I took it seriously. I practiced 3 times a day. I treated it like school. Right. I was like, at noon, you're running through all 30 of those songs. At 4 p.m., you're running through all 30 songs. And at night, you're doing all 30 songs. Yeah. So I got him down. I felt pretty confident. Went to Europe. First couple shows go good. I'm not used to being in the front of the stage. I'm usually behind. So there were some things I had to work out, but it was going fine. But I was noticing that my anxiety was so high from being in Jerry's position because he's such a damn beast on stage. That guy does spins and flips, and I don't move like him. And I thought the fans would notice that. So I was a little insecure. And so I was drinking way heavier before those shows. And I remember maybe 6 show in before the concert, my hand was doing this because I hadn't drank yet. And I went, here I am jeopardizing my job again. This is another time where I'm jeopardizing my job. And the only way to fix that shake, I was downing, dude, 7, 8 shots before the show. Wow. And that's how I got through Europe. The band doesn't know this, but they know now.
Yeah. And the shakes are from withdrawals.
Yeah. And for a guitar player, that's fucked up, dude.
Yeah.
And there was some times on stage where I could feel my hands slipping, and I got through that, and we got the call. I think we had 5 shows left, and we got the call. This thing called coronavirus is going around, which was sweeping through Europe at the time. And it hit Italy the hardest, if you remember. And we had just came out of Milan. And so we made an emergency stop. We flew from Frankfurt to the States. And I think a week later, our manager called and said, we are not touring for 2 years. We are not going to tour till 2022. And I just went, well, I decided to wallow in self-pity. And that's when drinking became my job. It became my full-time job.
Full-time.
Hey, off tour, fuck coronavirus, screw the world. And that's where it started into Austin. Really.
You just said on our last episode too about how so many people you were with in treatment stuff were hit hard during COVID, and you yourself as well.
Yeah, me myself as well. I mean, whenever I went to the other treatment center that I do have appreciation for showing me, how to treat people. I really felt like, well, they were overflowed. I mean, like they could max capacity. Every treatment center in the U.S. Was like at max capacity, had to turn people away during the pandemic. They couldn't, they didn't know how to do it. And they still have been, a lot of them at max capacity and stuff. And then they fluctuate, right? Like around the holidays, it gets a little lower. When we were there, it was a little lower because it's before the holidays, Thanksgiving.
21 people is
Christmas. Low. Yeah, it's low.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But the place I was at was maximum beds were 32, and they were having to turn people away. And then after like this time of year, beginning of January, there's a huge influx. But with COVID, I mean, that's just crazy. Like they have too many people to help and not enough beds to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's an important part that like COVID with the isolation.
Yeah.
You can drink and no one notices. You can work from home a lot of times. And you can hide it a whole lot better. I mean, I think that was the difference also between me living in Africa with the pygmy people in the Congo. Like the way that they live in tribes, you can't hide anything. Like a marital spat or like argument, like everyone in the village knows because you live in a little twig and leaf hut with 3 or 4 people, and the thing's like 6 or 8 feet wide. Like you're almost elbow to elbow with people while you sleep. You only go in there to sleep or to rest. And here it's so easy to hide, and you have your entertainment, right? You have your Netflix to binge, you have your Instagram to scroll, you have anything you want to do. You have your favor to bring you meals. You don't have to go to the grocery store.
I remember thinking that was kind of cool in the pandemic. Like, because Los Angeles, I was in Los Angeles at the time. They actually had a curfew. You couldn't leave your house from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. Right. So me and my roommate were like, it's kind of cool. Like, let's just get a ton of booze, watch a ton of Netflix, and eat, Domino's and all this shit. So I was just like conditioning myself to drink every day and it be validated.
Right.
We're in a pandemic. I'm not working. This is okay. I told myself that all the time, dude.
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the things I bet people that study addiction, the actual scientists and researchers are going to see, just like researchers are saying that the number 2 cause of death between ages 10 to 24 has been suicide in the US, but now post-COVID life, they think that it's going to take number 1. And in the UK, it did. UK, it's the number 1 cause of death between ages 10 to 14 is suicide. But now fentanyl's has overshadowed the deaths of alcoholism.
Right.
And I mean, that's like 100,000 people or something crazy, and, or 80,000 plus. And I think that you're going to see like, I don't know, man, people went from moderate users to hard users, or moderate drinkers to hard drinkers. And then a lot of people, their alcoholism, maybe it wasn't full blown alcoholism before, but when the pandemic hit and you got to be at home and you started drinking heavier and heavier, now all of a sudden you shifted from like a hard drinker to an actual real deal alcoholic.
Alcoholic for sure, because now you're drinking. I mean, that's when I started drinking in the mornings. That's like, and it just, everything was again justified from the fact that we had to be in our homes. And so I'm like, well, there's nothing else to do. Yeah, there is, dude. Like I could take walks and work out or work on music, but I felt like a kid that could do whatever he wanted because, school was that like, I'm not working or whatever. Yeah. And so,
you said one of the problems that you had was that no one could tell that you were drunk most of the time, right? I mean, you haven't shared that yet.
Yeah.
But you basically pass your own sobriety test, or you could talk to mom who raised you, and she wouldn't know that you were drunk. Can you explain that?
Yeah. I mean, most recently, once I opened up to my mother about my alcoholism, I asked her if she'd ever could tell I was drunk on the phone. And she goes, oh, well, there was that one time. And I went, what one time? She's like, well, you called me from Los Angeles and I could tell you were slurring. And I do remember that day. It's like a day where I think I finished a bottle of whiskey. So usually when I called my mom drunk, I was just drunk. But that time I was really messed up. But I go, Mom, do you realize I've talked to you probably 20, 30 times blackout drunk? She goes, no. I'm like, could you tell? She goes, no.
Wow.
So my thing, since I was a teenager, is I just don't slur. And like I said, if I finish a bottle, but going out with friends, going to bars, shots and beers, no slurring. I've been pulled over 3 times by police officers drunk, and they never asked me to get out of the car once. One of those times I hit a cop.
Wow.
What
do you mean you hit a cop?
Went to my dad's place of work.
Yeah.
My dad works at a casino in town. He runs sound. Went and had shots, beers. I mean, on the way to the casino, I had a car full of friends with bottles in the back taking pulls, right? So I left the casino with a buddy, and it was my friend's car. And my friend warned me, the brakes are touchy. You have to push them in all the way or they don't stop all the way. Yeah. And I remember him telling me that, but I was drunk, so I didn't really think about it. And so I'm pulling out of this casino. There's a cop coming toward me and taking a left turn. And I turn after him to go up this hill, and I brake, and the brakes don't work, and I bump into the cop.
Yeah.
So not only am I drunk, there's bottles under the seats, and there's cans in the back of the car. And so I'm like, I'm fucked. I'm getting a DUI and I'm going to jail. Like there's no other way out of this. Right. So he's in front of me. I hit him. He says on the loudspeaker, pull around my vehicle, go to the top of the hill and take a right turn off your car. So I do that. He puts the light on me. He comes right up to the car and looks at me. And I just start talking, and I'm not slurring. I'm like, officer, I have no excuse. This is my friend's car. His name's Brandon. He's right. He lives right over here. Here's the registration. The brakes failed. You can get in the car right now and try it if you like. Here's my license. Like I was just,
wow.
And he goes, give me the license. And whose car is this? And I told him, and he ran the plates and it checked out. And he comes back, shine the light in the back seat. But my friends put those bottles under the seats. Thank God, dude. If they had left one Bud Light can out, I'd be screwed.
Yeah. How did the smell just not like overwhelm?
I don't know.
Yeah.
All 3 times that I've drank and drove and got pulled over, I'm like, is he not smelling my breath? Because each time they're standing, he's not in my window.
Maybe you metabolize it some weird way where you don't smell.
Well, they honestly said the science behind it is alcoholics and addicts metabolize the substances differently than the normal person.
Yeah.
Like that's the actual science behind it.
Slower.
Yeah, slower.
So it's not coming out of your pores probably right away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I remember that tidbit is that alcoholics process alcohol 3 to 10 times slower than a non-alcoholic. So maybe that was the case, but he just, in this instance, he goes, drive back home to your friend's house. Don't take any hills. And I'm sitting there going, I'm drunk as shit. And he didn't even ask to check the brakes, right? So this comes into the God moments thing that we talked about at the ranch.
I'd love to get into those.
Which we could get into those.
Yeah.
I before going to the ranch, I didn't necessarily believe in God. And I was the guy that preached the Bible of I don't know. Because I don't know. Like I don't know if there's a God or if there isn't. So who am I to say? And I kind of left it at that. And from being at the ranch, not only did I feel something extremely powerful with all of you guys in the room when we would have those process groups and seeing everyone talk, I was feeling this electricity that I couldn't explain, but I went, that's not God. That's not anything, you know? But talking with a few of the guys, they just asked me, are there any moments in your life where you were like, how did I get out of this situation? Or how did I survive? And I thought about these cop situations. Like no one gets drunk, hits a cop with their car, and then doesn't get asked to come out or take a field sobriety test.
Mm-mm.
Especially when he goes, where were you coming from? I said, the casino, which is where people go to drink.
And it was nighttime.
Yeah.
Too,
Nighttime.
Right? That's insane.
I'm just like, okay, that's a good point. I can't remember which guy was telling me this. He's like, God moment, bro. And then he goes, how many times have you withdrawn by yourself? You know, how many times have you tried to write it out yourself? I'm like, 20. He goes, 20?
20 times and you can die the first time
You could
try to
die
withdraw the first.
You should always
Alcohol
seek-
will kill you if you try to withdraw by yourself, not medically attended to.
Always
monitored.
seek medical advice when you withdraw, when you're on a bender or drinking hard. I didn't know that. And I did it over 20 times in my bed with horrible body cramps. And, it's a 3-day thing. And they're like, you could have died any of those times. You don't think there's something looking out for you.
Yeah.
And it opened my mind to the thought of a higher power.
Right.
And I was always the guy that was like, well, if I can't prove it, if Anthony doesn't know yet, like I'm not going to believe in it. But the best thing one of the counselors said to me in treatment was, if you could understand your higher power, it's not much of a higher power, is it?
Mm.
And I went, you got me.
Yeah.
You got me, dude. Like,
If you can fully understand and comprehend it, right?
I can't comprehend Earth. It's way more massive than I am. I can't comprehend space and time. So when he said that, I went, I don't have to know everything in life. Like that's been my whole MO is like, I got to know facts.
Let me ask you this. Can you comprehend that energy, that power, that whenever there's 190,000 people at a concert and you guys are what, 4, 5, 6 guys up there on stage? 5. And you guys are playing and all of a sudden everyone is kind of coming together, jamming. I remember this guy, Evan, his theory and conception of God and his higher power was like a concert. Was when everyone comes together and it takes everyone's energy, everyone's focus, everyone being in the present moment. Yeah. And then that bringing that all consciousness or that power, that energy that brings everyone together.
Shout out to Evan on that one because that was one of the things I brought up in process group, right? Where I saw all the guys in there had their conception of a higher power. And to me, it looked like they had this buddy, this friend that they relied on, that they talked to and took their burdens away. And I was sitting there as an agnostic going, well, I don't have that. And so I remember opening up to you guys going, hey, I don't have faith. I don't have a God. I feel out of place here. And you all just told me it will come to you, man. Whatever that conception is will come to you. And Evan, he was sitting right next to me. So I remember him turning to me this close. And he said, Anthony, he's so philosophical when he speaks, dude. This kid we're talking about is
so smart.
He's so smart. He's such a genius. And when he talks, you listen. And so he just goes, Anthony, when you're on stage and you have 100,000 people in front of you and the electricity's flowing through your body, can you explain that? And I went, damn. I was like, no, I can't. He's like, do you ever just think that that's just a moment in time where God is speaking through people and you're giving God to them? And I went, man, never thought about that stuff. Like this is what I was mentioning earlier on the podcast about communicating with people instead of staying in your own head, which is what I did for so long. Yeah. Hearing that from this guy that I met 2 days earlier changed my perspective of what a higher power could be. It could be, you could see it in other people. It doesn't have to have a body or be Buddha or whatever. I just learned those moments happened at the ranch and I went, man, this is making sense to me now.
Well, I just got a notice a minute ago that we might have a little bit of a hard stop that we didn't know about. So in the last 7 minutes, I definitely want to talk about a couple of things. And one was basically you did have to go to the emergency room or an ambulance or paramedics, right? And you got there with a doctor, right? Yeah. And he asked you a question. Are you just going to go home to your whiskey? And you had a response, right?
Yeah, I did.
What was the response?
How dare you?
How dare you? Yeah.
How dare you?
And you got home though. And what happened?
I drank the rest of the whiskey and continued on another day and a half bender. That was my worst bender here in Austin. Yeah. Because I was alone. I mean, God bless my girlfriend, man. Blaze is such an amazing woman. And she put up with way more than she needed to, but she knew when to get out of the house when I was in my modes. Right. And she would go stay with family, right? And instead of getting better, I was so upset about that, I would drink. And so that was a moment where I called paramedics to the house because I was out of control and I thought I should just have someone check on me. Right. And they came and I was fine. What is it called? Not stats.
Statistically?
Just like my blood pressure.
Oh, yeah.
Stats, I guess you would say.
Yeah,
they checked all that.
Diagnostics.
Vitals.
There we go.
I'm sitting here like, what is it? Yeah.
Maybe I get hit in the head for a living too.
You just drink a lot.
Yeah. So they
I've
took
done
me
a lot
in.
of drugs.
They took me in and yeah, that doctor was like, you should stay here and detox. And I said, no, I'm going to go home. And I was so offended that she mentioned that I was going to go drink. But of course, as an addict, you go back and do that. And yeah, that bender, eventually that led me to my sponsor now. My neighbor came over the day after I got back from that, and we got me a sponsor, and he's my sponsor today. And
wow.
So that came
And
out
when your
that.
neighbor came over, is that the same neighbor that said they felt led to come to your door?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said he heard a voice from God to come check on me.
Huh. So his higher power,
His higher
God
power
said,
told him to come check on me.
on you.
And when he came into the house, paramedics were there with me again. I'd called them twice. And he just was like, my inkling was right. And so he helped me out big time.
Yeah. And he's the one that helped you find your sponsor?
No, but he's the one that called my girlfriend, who then called my mother, who then called who is my sponsor.
Rusty. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's the one that kind of got the ball rolling and like, this guy needs some help.
Yeah. And Rusty's put you against a door and said, I love you too much, or something like that.
Well,
what was that?
He kidnapped me.
He kidnapped you.
He kidnapped me, lovingly kidnapped me. The family conspired on one of my benders to have him come pick me up and drive me to his house in San Antonio and shake my tree, essentially. I didn't know this. I thought I was going to lunch with him. And he took me, and on the way down, he's like, I don't know if you noticed, but we're not going to lunch. You're going to my house and I'm going to get you detoxed. And I flipped out and I made all these threats. I was going to call the police. I was being an ass. And he said, I love you too much to turn this car around. And I was yelling at him. I mean, he's a guy that I love and I grew up with. And I was cursing, and he's like, I love you too much. I'm not turning the car around. And he shook my tree and told me, to take a deep inward look at myself. And that's the day I decided, or came to realize, I was an alcoholic out of control.
Wow. Man, I think we're going to have you on the podcast one more time, at least one more time, because I would love to hear more of your stories. Damn, the conversation was awesome. I'm so grateful for you. But I have been saving something because I wonder if you could grab your phone. I don't know that you could find it right away, but I do know that I would like to ask you the story at least.
We have to go story.
Okay, let's go story.
I'll do story because I'll tell you why I don't have that, what you're asking about.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no worries. But I would love to hear the story.
Oh man, I wish I could find that right now.
Okay, it's okay. This is what I would say. Whenever people are struggling, you came into the ranch, I saw you. You were so concerned and you were so bummed out, and you were also so in your head about, I got to find this God thing or I don't, like it's this higher power and everyone else has got it and I don't. You're stressing yourself out. And then I remember the moment of you sharing the story and I'm like, bro, I know that was for me. You sharing that with me, like self can't see self, but I was just like, look at this. I remember I repeated it back to you. I wanted to repeat it back to you so you could like hear what you're about to share with us now. So I know that this is going to land. And I know this is going to help somebody out there.
Well, this is how ridiculous I was in the moment, not noticing how powerful this moment was, because I was so deep in my alcoholism at this point. But the story is I, in the pandemic, it must have been summer of 2020, I went on a 3-day bender involving drugs and alcohol. Very dangerous. I was doing copious amounts. And I came to on a Monday morning and I Ubered home from this place I was at doing the partying. And I laid in bed all day, and it was the most horrific withdrawal symptoms I've ever had, because I was doing multiple things for 3 days, and I was physically shaking. I couldn't lift my head off of the pillow. And so I was yelling to my roommate to come in and spoon feed me an acai bowl. I mean, that's how bad it was. And I still wasn't going to the hospital.
Wow.
No way was I going to the hospital. I don't want anyone to know about this. I don't want it on record, and I'm too embarrassed. I'm going to write it out like I did for those 20 other ones.
Each one of them could have killed you.
Each one. This one for sure. I have no doubt in my mind I would have died.
Yeah.
It was so horrific. And I feel my phone buzzing. It's on silent, but I can't really touch it because I'm so weak, and I let it buzz. And I muster up the strength and I look, and it's a number from my hometown, but it's a random number I've never seen before. And I muster up the strength to open the phone, and there's a voicemail. And I hit play, and it's a little girl. She's 13, 14 years old. And she says, "Hi, I don't know who this is supposed to go to. I dialed a random phone number and I just wanted to tell you that God wants you to get help and God loves you and he wants you to be okay. Again, I'm so confused. My mother's name is Robin. And if you need to call back and contact her, but I just dialed this number randomly and I need to tell you that God wants you to survive and to be okay." And she stopped. And in that moment, I was like, wrong number. Like I didn't even think anything of it, right? But
looking back now,
I'm like almost getting choked up thinking about it now because that girl saved my life because I couldn't shake the fact how odd it was that she picked my number, but something went, "Anthony, let's be real here. Let's go to the hospital." Like she's the reason I went, let's do something about this, right? Even if this God thing isn't real, let's take this as a little bit of something. And I yelled for my roommate. We went to the emergency room and they were like, "Dude, you're in bad shape. My blood pressure, my heart was beating out of control." I stayed there for 6 hours and got IV'd and all this stuff. And looking back now, I'm like, it's so powerful, man.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah. That's not a God wink. That's like a God shake. That's like, "I'm trying
Hello?
to get your attention.
You idiot.
Please let me help you and let other people help you and just ask for help. Just ask for help."
And now the running joke is that I want to call her back to thank her, but
when she's 18. That's right. When she's 18, or call Robin and let her know.
Yeah.
And what a story, because I think that would increase her hope, her faith, her love to be like, wow, acting out in that prompting.
Yeah.
Helped somebody in such a deep and meaningful way.
Yeah, that it mattered.
It mattered.
It did.
She was right to do what she was led to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible.
And I think that's awesome about, like, even a lot of people talk about childlike faith, right? Like sometimes they just go for it. They might try to climb a mountain or jump off a swing set or, I know that that'd be really scary for me if I got some prompting. Call this random number right now. I might have some.
I would ignore that. There's no way. I'd be like, okay, I'm dreaming. I'm clearly tripping.
For her to dial it and
this
do it,
number,
I'm just like
8, this,
No,
like your exact number.
She was for real.
She was being.
She's like a medium or something.
Yeah, she's led.
I'm trying to locate that because right after we got out, I went and looked for it, and I didn't have it. But my younger brother has it because I sent him the screenshot of the text and a recording of it. So he's looking for it because I knew you wanted to hear it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Well, that's what we'll do whenever we have the second go around on this. I love you.
I love you too, brother.
I'm so grateful for you. Maybe if we got a quick second, what would be one of the biggest takeaways from time at treatment?
Fellowship, talking to your family, talking to friends, because I just feel like a lot of people that are struggling, they're embarrassed. They don't want to be they don't want to be dubbed an alcoholic or an addict because society dubs, we look at them as such, the guy under the bridge or whatever. And it's not the case. It doesn't discriminate. Wonderful people suffer from this. So just reach out. Just call your mom right now and tell them, or your dad right now and tell them, they will be there for you. You can get help. We got help. Mm-hmm. It's possible. So speak up about your demons. One of the most impactful guys for me at treatment was Brandon. Seeing Brandon, you guys riffing it on the guitar. You were playing because one night we somehow got a guitar from Mason, and then you're ripping it and or whatever you call it, throwing these riffs down, and then Brandon just belts it out. That was crazy.
And to know that he had gone through homelessness and had gone through all sorts of wild stuff, almost died, had like some open heart surgery and this battery beeping in his heart. He almost died from his addiction and all this stuff. And to hear how smart he was, man. Yeah. To see him find a power greater than himself, to see breakthrough after being to treatment multiple times, just be like this guy that thought he had no hope, to see the light come on. Beautiful people there, man. It was incredible. People. So thank you so much, bro. Yeah. I love you, man. Can't wait to meet Tobin, Amber, Arrow, come to a concert. Where can people check you out? So on Instagram, I am at Twanista, TWANISTA. Okay. And then at Papa Roach, if you want to check out some of the new music, we have three brand new songs out right now. So Spotify, Apple Music, all that. What would be one of the songs?
Kill the Noise.
Kill the Noise. And
That's
what would
the name
be
of the tour. I looked it up.
Ooh.
Very good. Kill the Noise tour.
Looks good. It looks
Coming to
good.
you.
You're going to be in Texas, but so you'll be going, right? I mean, it starts the 1st of March and you'll be
1st of March, we're hitting it. And then
Cool.
we have a festival in Mexico right after, actually. We'll be hitting as well.
Oh, nice.
So Kill the Noise is it's just a banger track.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of heat
Did
on it.
you help write that song?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's one of your favorite songs you've wrote that someone else can go check out?
Ironically, Falling Apart.
Falling Apart. Yes. I was going to. Yeah.
I love that song and I
Oh.
butchered it that night, but
Yeah.
not anymore.
That's probably why they really looked at you like, why are you messing up your
Come on,
song?
dude. You wrote it.
Yeah. Okay. And then any other big things to check out from Papa Roach?
Our record's going to be dropping this year. I don't have the date yet,
Okay.
but if you just keep up on our socials, we're on Facebook, Instagram, we're on TikTok, baby. So I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll be making some announcements on there, but I am so proud and stoked for this album. We actually rented out a house in Temecula and made the record in the house with all the gear in the living room and stuff. It was a really cool experience. So brand new record dropping this year.
All right. I guess we can maybe get around 2 with you sometime.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Love you, bro. Thanks so
Love you
much.
Hey, don't forget to send your Overcome stories to overcomepodcast@gmail.com. And also rate, review, subscribe, and follow Overcome with Justin Wren.